Hello, we are now at lesson 10, database migration. So before we continue to our lessons, so I would like you to go to your uh, SAMP control panel. Now in your SAMP control panel, you have to start your Apache and MySQL for this activity. So for you to start, you just click the button to the opposite of the Apache and MySQL. So once you're done turning on your Apache and MySQL, you will see here on the Apache that Apache is using port 80 and port 443. Okay, and your MySQL is using the port 3306. Okay, so just remember that. Okay, for your MySQL, you have 3306 port. Okay, now to test whether our MySQL is working, so we need to go to the shell. So just click the button here on your control panel, and in order for you to get inside the MySQL, of course you have to type MySQL dash u root, and this account by default does not have a password. Okay, so you just type MySQL dash uroot, then press enter. So that's it. You are now inside MySQL. Okay. Now, if you're going to look, what are the content or what is the database inside the MySQL, you just type show databases semicolon. Mhm. Okay, show databases. I mean, so you have here 5 databases inside your database. Okay, and let's create another one. Let's create uh, the sixth database. Okay, for our demonstration in our topic. So let's say our database is, so to create, you use the command create database, then the name of your database. Let's say, for example, inventory. Okay, in inventory. Okay, that is the name of our database. So you just press enter. Okay, so show databases. Now we have our inventory created. Okay, so the database now ready. Now let's try to use our database or activate our inventory. Now the database is now active, and let's try to display whether it has a table on it, in it. Show tables. So we don't have any table yet. Okay. For the meantime, we will just leave our database, inventory database. Okay. And just remember that we are connecting to a port. Okay. 3306. Okay. 3306 for our MySQL. So that is the port that we are using. And for the user, we use the root by default, and we don't have password. Okay, so those information are important in order for us to start creating connecting our my Laravel to our database. Okay, so database migration. So when we say migration are like version control for your database, allowing your team to easily modify and share the application database schema. Migrations are typically paired with Laravel Schema Builder to easily build your application database schema. Okay, so Laravel will automatically create actually two tables. In this example, it's two tables, but now Laravel create another table which is password reset. So this is the time that I create this manual. Laravel only create two tables, and those tables are user tables and file job tables. Now the additional table is password reset. Okay, so when we migrate our table or connect Laravel to our MySQL, it will generate another table. So don't be surprised. Okay. Now, there are configuration needed to be done in order for us to have connection or to connect our Laravel to MySQL. Okay. So we're going to modify the file which is .env or environment file of Laravel. So we're going to change this one or the line 9 up to line 14. So for line 9, it is telling us what's the name of our database connection. Definitely that is MySQL. And DB host, dahil ginagamit natin is Apache. So naka-local lang naman tayo. So the IP that we're going to supply is 127.0.0.1. So we don't need to change this too. Okay? For our database port, so as I mentioned, you should remember the ports that you are using, which is 3306. So luckily, by default, Laravel is the port value of Laravel is 3306, which is identical to the port that your SAMP is using. And what is the name of your database? Here, the name of your database is Laravel, but we created a database name inventory. So instead of Laravel, we're going to change this one to inventory. Then for the username, so we use the default name of our database, which is root. And here, in your Laravel, that is root also. And no password. Okay, so same as with our database credentials. Now, this is just a PDF copy of our ENV. So let's move to our Laravel folder. So let's open our Visual Studio Code. Now here in Visual Studio Code, the Laravel folder that is open is demo. Okay. Now below this under this demo, look for the .env, which is this one, env, and click it for you to view the files. Okay, so these are the data environment configuration of Laravel. So we just changed the line 9, line 10 up to line 14 for our credentials. So we are using the database MySQL. So we just specify we don't need to change this one. Of course, this one and this one. Now only the database name we use for our database is inventory. So we have to change that to inventory. Then for username, we have the same value, which is root, and we don't have password. Okay. So after doing it, we just need to save our file for the configuration be ready for our connection with our database. Now that our Laravel is connected to the database, so let's see in our manual what is the next step. Okay. So now that we already changed the settings, okay, we already changed the settings. So we already created and I show you the tables of inventory that that have any tables yet, or it has an empty set. Okay. So the command that we are going to use is php artisan migrate. Okay. PHP artisan migrate. So this one, we're going to type this in our terminal. Okay. Now, artisan migrate will generate a table, which is the default table of Laravel. This one is the table that should be there when we are using Laravel. Laravel will create, when we issue this migrate command, Laravel will automatically create a tables. Those three tables are users tables, failed jobs, and password reset. So I'm just using an old reference, and Laravel update the tables that are used, or the default table that is needed in order for you to, when you issue the migrate command. So let's try to issue the migrate command in our terminal. Okay. Now the command is again php artisan migrate. Okay, artisan migrate. So once I press this enter again, we have three tables will be created. So the first one is user table. Okay, and the other one is password reset, and the last one is the failed job table. Okay, now inside our inventory, when we go to our MySQL or on the terminal and try to look at the content of our inventory, we will see three tables. The reason why there is a table because of this migrate command. So to show you, okay, so let's move to our terminal. Okay, so I'm going to, the inventory is now active, and I'm going to show you that show tables, that we have actually four tables. Okay, we have failed job, migration, and password reset, and additional one which is user. But if you look at the status here, so going back to the terminal of our Visual Studio Code, so if you want to see the status of your uh, database, so you just issue php, oh sorry, php artisan migrate, then followed by status. So there have that, we have three database that are migrated to the inventory database. Okay, we successfully migrate this table to our inventory table. Now there are different options that you could use. We have here Fresh drops all tables and rerun all the migrations. Then for the install, it creates a migration repository. And if you want to reset and rerun all the migration, you have to use the command refresh. And if you want to roll back all the database migration, you use the reset. And for the rollback, the last database migration, you use rollback. Now, I demonstrate to you the status that shows the status of each migration file. Okay. So below the options, we have here the laboratory activity. So in our laboratory activity, you have to create a migration file. You're going to try it by yourself in your PC. So you're going to try it. Then create a database with a demo, with a name of demo. So the name of your database would be demo. Then after creating the database, display it how you successfully created the demo database. Check if there's are tables inside the demo database, just like we did. So right after the configurations and issuing the PHP artisan migrate, I show you the content of the database. So instantly after issuing the command, we have a database created. So there are 4 tables created inside our database. But in the migration file, we only have 3 migration file that is located in our uh, Laravel folder. Then migrate the files located in the database migration directory. Show the status of each migration by issuing PHP migrate, PHP artisan migrate. Okay. Then roll back all the migration by issuing artisan migrate reset. So you're going to try the reset, migrate reset, and then turn migrate, and then also look at the demo inside the demo database. Okay, to migrate again the files, run PHP artisan migrate. So this is just an activity wherein you will practice how to create a migration file, or how would you change to be aware of how you configure your environment, Laravel environment for your database. Okay, and try the migration command. So this is just applying the lesson that we have discussed. Okay, so I think that's it. So let's have a last look for our database. Okay, so remember, look at the you have to open your activate your Apache and MySQL using your SAMP, and look at the port 3306. Okay, and remember, if you have password for your MySQL, so don't forget to include that here on line 14. If you have password in your MySQL, it will generate an error. Okay. Now, if you have a different username, you should change this into the credentials for your MySQL. Okay. So that's it. Remember, when you change the name, okay, you have to change the name of this database use. So we use the name. We created the inventory database in MySQL. So we put here inventory. So by default, you will see here Laravel. So you just have to change it if the to the name of your database that you create on the MySQL terminal. So I think that's it. So see you guys next meeting.